want to get straight to that breaking news. Just in the last few minutes, we have learned the name of the man shot and killed by Columbia County deputies. This open manhole cover has not only become a smelly problem for neighbors, but also a dangerous one. At about 2 feet wide and 11 feet deep, it would be a long way to fall straight down to the sewer. It is just a real mess out here. Look right here behind me. This is the hole where they say a Ford Explorer crashed into this home. Wait, so they all get pampered and prepared, but not all of them?
Yeah, because you never know which two.
That's not, I don't want to know that.
You don't that too much.
They all get pampered? That's like going to the spa before the slaughterhouse.
At least that handful will get pampered. It's a couple of good days before the bad days.
I guess it's better than the rest of them who
go straight to the slaughterhouse.
Poor turkeys.
Life is
Good luck
tough.
up there. Good luck up there.
This group says they would ultimately like to see the end of animal testing, but at the very least for GRU to reconsider how they get their dogs for the testing.
They're going to be cracking down on things like seat belts, distractions, and of course, speeding. You see all these orange cones. They say each orange cone is a piece of evidence, whether that be a shell casing, whether that be a piece of hair, footprint, anything. And then also right over here, you can see where the shooting actually started happening. The windows are shattered out of this car. Investigators say he drug her body through this path in the woods all the way over here, where they say they found this hole, Todd Goff, a shovel, and his girlfriend's body very close by. The Beck family came outside to find their trampoline twisted up like a pretzel.
Digital detox, where patients cannot use any device for 72 hours. Laura could never survive it. The program costs $14,000. It is not covered by insurance.
What? That is so expensive.
All of us would fail that test, I'm afraid.
Oh my gosh, I just want to see the steps leading up to that, the intervention. Like, we love you, you have a problem.
It's okay if your phone battery dies completely. It's
all
right.
Okay.
It's
Let it go.
Okay.
She's got these cute little socks on her feet, and she is up to date with all of her shots. She is also having none of this leash here. She's looking for an exit route. Her church service on Wednesday typically starts at 7. The tornado, we're told, touched down just minutes after 7 o'clock. So this building really would have been full of people at the exact hour that it touched down.
Worst possible timing.
In Harlem, there's a church on nearly every corner. Things move a little slower, and folks who live there compare it to Mayberry.
This town reminds me of when I was growing up in the 50s. The kids still ride their bicycles to school.
But the city is a little more modern than Mayberry in a couple of ways. For one, Chief Gary Jones with the Public Safety Department keeps the public informed of what's going on with a Facebook page. Along with updates about criminals, he'll occasionally make posts rooted in his Christian beliefs.
I'm not ashamed of putting God into anything, and I think that just my opinion, that's what's wrong with this country today.
His most recent post to the department's Facebook page encourages parents to teach their children about Jesus, and it also encourages discipline in the home. He says, quote, "The law does not prohibit a parent or guardian from spanking their children. No, it is not reasonable to strike a child with a bat or other object, but you can use a belt and strike their rear ends."
That's just my belief. I was raised that way, and most of the folks in my generation were raised that way with discipline, with a belt.
Linda Caldwell has lived in Harlem since the 70s, and she runs the Laurel Hardy Museum. She says she sees nothing wrong with the posts.
Because everything has gotten so PC, political correct, that I just love that he is doing this, and I think basically everybody around in this area does too.
But not everyone in the community is sure that the Harlem Public Safety Facebook page is the appropriate forum for that message.
I just felt like it maybe was overstepping boundaries as far as putting out a public message of, concerning the community.
But the page has a lot of support from the community. His posts often get hundreds of likes, comments, and shares. Chief Jones says he plans to continue his posts, and he doesn't make any apologies for anything he's posted so far. Don't let the smile of this 13-year-old blonde-haired beauty fool you. Behind closed doors, she says life at home with stepfather number 2 of 7 was a living hell.
My stepfather had held a loaded gun to my head, to my siblings' head. It was kind of like we were, just made to clean up their messes all the time.
Her rocky family life came to a head one night in a fight with her mom. It was a night that would change the course of her life forever.
I was 14 when she asked me, but she didn't ask me, she told me, you just need to get out.
She left home with the clothes on her back, staying at friends' houses until she ran out of excuses for not going home.
I was so scared of going back there. I didn't want to go back there. You know, it was a bad life. In Tampa, their bathrooms and their gas stations are like outside. You don't have to ask anybody for a key. So I just stayed in the bathroom.
Bathrooms, park benches, the streets. Wherever she could find a place to sleep, she would. A frightening life for a 14-year-old girl, scared, hungry, and alone.
Come across, him, he was just kind of like a, familiar face and someone who was willing to help. I saw it as help. And so I just went back to his house and I was willing to stay there.
Lured by promises of protection and the father figure that had been missing in her life, she felt she had a new home.
You have someone who's giving you meals and providing for just extremely basic needs. And so I don't have anything to give. I don't have a job. And so it was almost like I felt obligated.
So she paid her debt with the only thing she felt she had to offer, her body.
At a certain point, I didn't feel like I was obligated. It was like I didn't feel like I had a choice.
Eventually, she was told to have sex with others, passed around to different houses.
I would kind of hear them talking about money being exchanged.
For 2 years, she lived as a sex slave. At the age of 14, passed around like an object.
Probably about 100 to 130, 40 people. That's like the first time I ever told anybody that.
She realized they weren't locking her in their homes for her protection, but to keep her from leaving. And for 2 years, she was too afraid to try, too afraid to fail.
Sometimes the hell you're in is better than the hell you don't know.
But she did know the life she was in was no life at all. Some 20 years later, every detail is clear of the day she'd had enough.
I had been beaten like really, really bad. And I just remember like sitting on the bathroom floor and, just like, I just cannot believe like how much longer can this go on?
Searching and then saving any forgotten pennies she could find on the floor, in a couch. Finally, she had enough to make a phone call to her biological father in Augusta.
And I did not tell him what was going on. I think he felt obligated to come and get me because he had not been a part of my life. Till I was like actually in another state with my dad, I was pretty scared.
Scared of who would come after her, scared of having to go back home, scared for the unknown. Now she has a family of her own. 2 kids, both too young to hear about their mother's dark past. But one day, she believes she'll tell them.
I think of how, the outcome could have been so much worse.
She found the strength to speak out, to tell her story for the first time, to let you know this is real and it can happen to the pretty 13-year-old girl down the street.
It's not always like in the movies, like what people think. It's not always like there's a pimp, you're standing on the street corner. That's not always what the face of it looks like.
Meredith, we just received Officer Michael Dodero's personnel file, a few hundred pages from the decade he spent with the Richmond County Sheriff's Office. And for the first time, we're learning from internal reports in this file just what some witnesses tell investigators happened that night. Page 1 of this massive personnel file shows that investigator Dodero resigned in lieu of termination April 1st after he allegedly crashed this county car while under the influence. Chris Rodish says he witnessed the events that led up to that crash.
Acting very erratic. And then when the bar closed, he wouldn't leave. He was being just really hard-headed, basically.
Officer Dodero was at the Vegas Showgirls Club on Broad Street March 29th when reports say he was served 2 double shots of Jaeger, 2 double Bacardi and Cokes, and a Miller Lite.
He pulled his badge out at one time and saying he's a Richmond County narcotics officer and everything else, and he was crazy. He was acting like a fool.
After flashing his badge to a bouncer, reports say Officer Dodero pulled a handgun from his pocket. That's when the bouncer backed away and Dodero went outside.
When I walked outside, I heard altercation go on. Evidently, he was trying to go after one of the bouncers at the front door.
Chris says he saw Dodero take a beer bottle and throw it against the glass door of the club. That's when he decided it was time to call 911.
While I was on the phone with Richmond County, returned to his car, got in it, sped off with no lights, came around, came back around, turned back around on the Broad Street, and just rolled out.
Officers found Dodero at the old IHOP on Washington Road, standing next to a Dodge Charger with 2 flat tires. Reports say a deputy who responded asked Dodero his name, and he said, quote, "I don't have to tell you The DUI report says he was swaying, his eyes were watery and bloodshot, he was crying, he had disheveled clothing, slow and slurred speech, an odor of alcohol, and had urinated on himself. One deputy states Dodaro urinated 2 additional times in front of the car while they were writing him up. The case is still waiting trial, but in the meantime, investigator Dodaro managed to get another job as a narcotics investigator with the Hephzibah Police Department.
Ridiculous after he has a police report of him flashing a gun, flashing his badge, drunk, driving off drunk, wrecking the car, and then you hire him again. I mean, I don't think it's very good judgment on anybody's part.